I got to tell you, the Iranian situation is unbelievable. They shot down a drone. I don't know if they thought it was in their airspace or not, but it was an aggressive act, and it was really stupid. Now, the drone is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. No U.S. servicemen or pilots were involved in being in harm's way because it was a drone. They shot it down. It was aggressive action and probably not the best thing that they could possibly do. But if shooting down a drone because they thought it was in their airspace is now reason for the United States to launch another war in the Middle East against one of the oldest civilizations in the area, the Persians, the biggest country with the most people, that has got to be one of the most insane things that I've ever heard. And here we go again. Deja vu all over again. Here we go again. The warmongers and the neocons, and who neocons are, is they are the muscular defense U.S. military operatives that run around Washington and want to bomb everybody and overthrow regimes or whatever else that they've been doing in the CIA and the military for 50 years. And by the way, you're going to get all the corporate globalists behind this because they get another one of these wars. You know how much money these people make? Your kids die, they come home maimed in body bags, and they make billions, not millions, billions of dollars. The defense contractors, billions of dollars. They don't fight these wars. These senators don't fight these wars. The globalist big corporation CEOs that are 70 years old with their islands and yachts, they don't fight these wars. Nobody in the White House is fighting this war. You know who's fighting it? Our kids. For what? For a drone? I don't care what U.S. Don't be telling me about what U.S. Intel says. U.S. Intel? Are you kidding me? This is the same U.S. Intel that told us there were WMDs in Iraq for 2 years? And they didn't have crap there? I mean, the guy had nothing. He had a pop gun and some scuds that he couldn't even aim straight. And we destabilized the Middle East and went to war and lost all these young men and women and all those civilians. For what? And completely destabilized the Middle East? That intel community? I don't really care what they say. Here we go again. Now, I think the president is going to get reelected in 2020, only bigger. And there's only one thing that's going to derail him. And you know what it is? Going to war with Iran or anybody else. Because one of the tenets of his populist America First campaign was to get out of these Middle Eastern entanglements. And they're trying to suck us right back in. We ought to be out of Syria. We ought to be out of Afghanistan. Let the Afghans figure it out. We need to get out of Iraq. Let them figure it out. This idea that Iran is some huge threat to the United States is another fairy tale. They got a few gunboats. The hell are they going to do? Oh, they blew a hole in some tanker. We send 1,000 people there, another 1,000 troops, and a couple of ships, and that's the end of that. So now we're going to go to war over this? Now here's why I'm alarmed. Any active war in the Middle East that sucks us in is going to sink the president's second term. Bernie Sanders will beat him. Warren will beat him. Pete will beat him. Biden will beat him. Booker will beat him. De Blasio will beat him. I don't care who the nominee is. His base is not going to stand for this. They elected Trump to get us out of these wars, not get us in these wars. Now, we understand it from the New York Times that the president preliminary approved military strikes against Iran in retaliation for the downing of a drone, but pulled back from launching the attacks. This is what the U.S. media was reporting late last night, citing senior White House officials, which basically they shouldn't be leaking this, but this is what they do. That's a sieve in there. New York Times reported that the president sanctioned first an operation to initiate attacks on a handful of Iranian targets, that's in quotes, including radar and missile batteries. They were in the early stages of planning it Thursday night when Trump had second thoughts and called it off. You want to know why he called it off, folks? You want the insight as to why he called it off? Because he thought about it. You know, he's got all those advisors in there. He's got the whole John Bolton, warmonger, neocon crew running around, flexing their muscles, itching for fights and bombs, missiles. The whole bunch of them. And they've been wrong on everything for 50 years. They've gotten nothing right. They're like 0 for 100. What have they gotten right? What have these warmongers and neocons and so-called intel experts gotten right in the last 50 years? You know what? Nothing. They certainly didn't get 9/11 right, did they? Where was their intel there? What have they gotten right in 50 years? Nothing. They're batting zero. They shouldn't even be in single A ball. They should be in the rookie league and cut. Unbelievable. Here's why he changed his mind. Not that he got conflicting evidence. Donald J. Trump thought about it. And why I love this president, and I am such a true believer, and that's what I am. I am a true believer. And if he goes down, I'll go down with him, because I am a true follower of Trump and his America First policy, vision, and agenda. And he's already changed the Republican Party from the crap wig, neocon, Romney, McCain, Bush, Cheney, horrible thing we had that I couldn't even identify with him. But he got to thinking about this. And Donald J. Trump's instincts are not to launch wars. And he thought about it. He got the advice. He preliminary went ahead. He thought about it. And Trump's instincts are what I bank on. They're sound. Now, a lot of my listeners might not think they are, and a lot of the Democrats might not think they are. But even if you're a Democrat and you hate Trump, deep down in your soul, as much as you hate him and his tweets and everything about him, you know that his instincts are sound. That's why he's successful. Data? Yes. Intel? Yes. But then you got to make a decision. And there is a human element of every decision that is made. There is a human element. And that's what separates decision making. The human element. Data is cold. Here's the data. Here's what Iran is doing. Here's the photos that it was in our international airspace. Here's this. Here's that. Here's what they're doing. Here's all the data. And the data says, well, according to historical U.S. doctrine, we launch an attack of some kind. That's your data. And then you have a president who says, okay, I got the data. Let's plan it. And then he thinks about it, and he adds his instinct and human element. And he says, no, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm not going to get the U.S. involved in another war. Let's talk to them. Let's see if we can ratchet this down so we're not sending our kids there, so that his son, Barron, is not going there, so that our kids are not going there. Have you had enough of these Middle Eastern wars? What in God's name threat is Iran to us? Oh, well, they could have a nuclear weapon. At the time you think they're going to get one, let the Israelis take their military and their 100 jets and blow them out of the ocean. Let them do it. They are no threat to us whatsoever. And if they did threaten us, we would wipe them off the face of the earth. So the whole thing is nonsense. It's all about Israel. You got Israel, you got the UAE, who's a bunch of liars. You got Mohammed bin Salman, who just murdered Khashoggi, and now it's all over the UN. He's a completely incompetent. They all want to suck us into their proxy war with Iran. I'm not even convinced that it was the Iranian Revolutionary Guard that blew up those tankers and put holes in them. For what purpose? I don't believe anything anymore. Do you believe any of this stuff since WMDs? Or is it just me? Am I just a lonely voice out there? You know what it is to be conservative? Think about your own people in your own country. Think about your own kids. Last thing we need to do is be launching strikes against Iran or anybody else in the Middle East that is no threat to the United States. If the Saudis don't like them, let the Saudis go fight them like they are in Yemen. And hey, by the way, congratulations on the U.S. Senate for overriding Trump's arms sales to the Saudis. Oh, well, they're just going to buy the arms from China. Go ahead. The stuff stinks. I mean, at some point, you just got to stop this. I mean, is the money in selling arms to us that important to our economy that we're going to be a part of the disaster and the humanitarian crisis in Yemen where kids and infants are starving every day because they can't find leaves to eat off trees? They're eating grass. Do you want to be a part of that? I don't want to be a part of that because we can make some sales. Look, I love to make sales. I do sales all day. I get off the air at 10. I start to make sales. That's how I survive. I'm independent. By the way, I'm the only independent syndicated radio network in America. I'm it. One. I know how tough it is to make sales. We need to sell their arms that bad. Does Boeing need that business that bad? Congrats for the Senate for overriding that decision. And you're not going to find a bigger Trump backer than me in America. And I'm a true believer. And he did the right thing last night in calling this whole thing off. You got John Bolton in there running around and all these warmongers. When are we going to learn? We never learn. You know why? Money. I've been telling you this since I've been on the air for 10 years. You follow it back to Wall Street. That is the evil empire of globalist America, is Lower Manhattan and Goldman Sachs. You just follow it back. Yeah, they're all clamoring. They're all beating the drums. They're all rattling sabers. Why? You know how much money they're going to make? Your kids die, they make money. Lots of it. It's the globalist economy. How do you think we got out of the first recession? The depression we were in. Japan attacks us. We did everything to provoke them. Read about it. It's all there. Roosevelt knew about it, a lot of people say, did nothing to stop it. Wanted us to get in the war. Money. Get out of the depression. Who knows? Wanted to be a war president. You know what? I could do a whole day on FDR's involvement with Japan in sucking us into the Second World War. Not that it was a good thing or a bad thing. It's just history. I'm not a history denier. Like, I actually read history. But this, I tell you what, I congratulate the president on putting the brakes on getting us involved in another conflict. And you got all those Republicans running around in there, rattling their sabers and getting out their swords and talking about bombing people like Tom Cotton. We don't need to bomb people. We need to fix potholes and bridges and rail and ports. Haven't we spent enough trillions of dollars in the Middle East down a black rat hole where we're getting nothing out of it? Meantime, you can't drive down a highway without messing up the tires on your car. We have zero infrastructure improvements. We can't even get an infrastructure bill passed, but now we're going to spend another $1 trillion on another war with Iran? This is the biggest country in the Middle East. They have the most population, the most landmass, and they're a 1,000-year-old civilization. You just don't go in and drop a few bombs, Tom Cotton. Maybe we can get Rand Paul on our show. Meantime, no AUMF, no authorization. All right, they blew a drone up, right? Tell them to give us a check for the drone, okay? Come on. Tell them they can take part of the $2 billion that Obama dumped in there in pallets and gave them so they can spread terror around the Middle East. Tell them it's $100 million, just send us a check. That's it. Done. We understand it was a mistake. No problem. Let's all move on. Now, the U.S. sanctions against Iran are strangling them economically. What any country in a dictatorship has to be concerned about is when young people don't have jobs. I mean, that was a problem in Tiananmen Square. That's always the problem. When young people are upset and they don't have jobs, you've seen it all over the earth. When they start rallying and protesting, it puts dictatorship governments in a bad position. That's what's happening with Iran. So maybe they're doing a little bait and switch here. I don't know. But it's certainly shooting down some $100 million drone. Oh, it's a $100 million drone. Oh, my God, it's $100 million. We piss that away on an hourly basis with the crap we spend money on in there. Oh, it's $100 million. Let's start a $1 trillion war over a drone. This is insane. Insane. And you know what? All my counterparts, except Dr. Savage, Save One, which is on WJFN 100.5 FM, 3 o'clock every day. Save Dr. Savage. All my radio counterparts on talk radio, they're all going to be waving the flag. We should retaliate. We should bomb. Oh, yeah, they're all going to be doing it. Every single one of them. Sean Hannon will be on saying you're a great American patriot and all that crap that they do. Waving bombs and flags around. And you got two people on conservative talk radio in America that are saying, wait a minute. We've been down this path. Two, Savage and me. That's it. Yeah, you turn them in, they'll all be rattling their sabers and getting out the guns because it ain't them that's going. They're living in mansion. Hannity's not going to war. Limbaugh's not going. Not one of them. They're all living their mansions. They ain't going. Our kids are going. To die for what? A drone? Are you serious? John Fredericks Radio Network. After warning yesterday that Iran's decision to shoot down a U.S. drone was a big mistake, which it was, President Trump, according to reports in the White House, approved military strikes to certain targets, minimum casualties, the radar bases, and other missile-type bases, military targets. But he pulled back late Thursday night after he spent the day thinking about it. This is why I love my president. This is why I'm a true believer and I have such confidence in him. He thought about it. Yeah, he's surrounded by neocons and warmongers that make billions of dollars off these wars. He thought about it. And officials told the New York Times that apparently the president initially approved the strikes on a handful of Iranian targets, such as radar and missile batteries, earlier in the day, and he called it off at 7:30 p.m. without any weapons being fired. They were scheduled to be fired at dawn today, and he called it off about 7:30. So see, he went and he started thinking about it, and he got some time by himself, and he thought it through, and he's like, you know what, we're not going to make any sense. And the retaliation was set to take place before dawn in Iran to minimize the risk of casualties. This again, according to the New York Slimes. But military officials were told by the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, to stand down at 7:30. Now, Trump warned Iran last night that a U.S. attack was imminent, and he did that by using Oman as an intermediary, which we have a good relationship with. Both countries do, and it was a good move. That's what Iranian officials told Reuters. According to the Reuters account, the president conveyed his opposition to any war with Iran to his inner advisors and said after he thought about it that he would prefer to have a dialogue with Tehran. What a great idea, Mr. President. Thank you. Let's have a dialogue. Thank you. Excellent decision. And he said that he wanted to offer a short period of time in which Iran could give their response. Because what Iran is saying is, look, I don't care what you guys are saying. That drone was in our airspace, and we have recovered parts of the drone that's in our airspace. So if it was not in our airspace, how are we recovering it in our airspace? So there's conflicting evidence. Oh, maybe it was in international space and it was 2 miles off. I don't know. Who cares? Who cares? We're going to go to war over a drone that was a mile or 20 miles or some not far from their territorial waters because it couldn't be that far because they're retrieving pieces of it that are in their international waters. So how far could it have been? It certainly was not flying over Dubai. I tell you what, you got to watch the neocons. You got to watch them like a hawk. I don't trust anything any of them say, ever. I still don't believe that Iran was blowing holes in these tankers. I think the UAE staged it, or certainly that's a theory, because that makes no sense either. Just like I was suspect that Assad was dropping barrel bombs on his own people as we were withdrawing out of Syria. I don't believe that either. Sorry, I just don't believe it. Well, U.S. Intel, WMDs, I don't believe it. A lot of this stuff happens to suck us in to another one of these wars so they can make their billions of dollars. And your friends at Goldman Sachs can make bigger bonuses and buy yacht number 5 off some island. Look, I've been onto these people for years. That's why I couldn't stand George Bush. 2, 1, Jeb Bush, Dick Cheney, the whole bunch of them. Rumsfeld, all of them. George W. Bush, worst president history of the United States, bar none. Why? Look at the Middle East. Still can't get out of it. Trump's reaction to Iran's drone strike evolved as the day wore on. This is why I love my president. Got all his advisors together, got all the warmongers around him, all the neocons, all the John Bolton types. And look, he said that this country's not going to stand for it, but that doesn't mean you go to war. Now, the United States Central Command said in a statement on yesterday, that the drone was destroyed in an unprovoked attack in international airspace by a surface-to-air missile. Iran insisted the drone was inside the country's airspace. Okay, again, what is the purpose of shooting down a drone in international airspace? Like, what is that going to gain for Iran? Nothing. So what would be the purpose of it? Just like, what's the purpose of blowing a hole in a tanker on the Straits of Hormuz? Nothing. Just like, what was the objective of Assad dropping barrel bombs on his own people when that war was winding down and he was winning? Nothing. When we were withdrawing? Nothing. Doesn't matter. Now here's the warmongers. Let's start with warmonger number 1, Lindsey Graham, the face of the neocon movement in Washington. On Thursday, Senator Graham emphasized the importance of an assertive rejoinder for Trump. What the hell does that mean? How about diplomacy? How about having a conversation? How about just a dialogue? arguing that if the president did not respond that to what the senator said was a clear military provocation, Trump risks being perceived as all talk. Oh, yeah. Is that why he sent missiles to Syria? He's all talk. That's why he's got tariffs on China and Mexico almost, because he's all talk. That's why he canceled TPP, NAFTA, and everything else. He's got tariffs on the Europeans, and he pulled out of the Iranian deal, and he's got sanctions that are strangling the country. He's all talk. What planet are you on, Graham? All talk? Because what? We're not dropping bombs on people? You see what you deal with here in Washington? Do you get this? Do you get it? Do you understand that this is the Republican Party that Trump eviscerated in 2016? Eviscerated them, including Graham, who got 1% in his own state. Graham told reporters after a classified briefing by U.S. Intel in the Situation Room, if they do anything else against an American asset and this president doesn't respond like Ronald Reagan, that's a signal to North Korea and the entire world we're all talk. Excuse me? What are you, Dr. Strangelove now? You never met a bomb you didn't like? It's unbelievable. Now, the senator referred to Reagan's decision to order retaliatory strikes against Iranian targets during the 87 tanker war. That's a little bit different. Then he goes on to say, I'm confident that if there's a war with Iran, they lose. Well, of course they're going to lose. This is the United States. But at what cost? Of course they're going to lose. But so are we. Everybody loses. And you lose your kids. He says it won't be pretty. Yeah, well, you'll be sitting there in the senator's lounge, sipping a scotch on the rocks, going over war plans in your briefing cloakroom, sipping a cocktail at 6 o'clock, while our kids are getting their feet blown off. But unbelievable. This is the nonsense I still have to deal with. Let's go to some of these other neocon warmonger senators. Here's John Cornyn of Texas. Echoed Graham's support for U.S. retaliation. Let's see who else we got. We got Senator Roy Blunt from Missouri saying there should be a response. What the response should be, I don't know. Boy, thanks, Roy. Thanks for that senatorial colloquy there. There should be a response. What that response should be, I don't know. Thanks, Roy. Thanks for sharing your wisdom with us. Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer said he worried that Trump could drag the United States into a war with Iran in the absence of thorough consideration and congressional approval, which he couldn't get. So Schumer's right. He said, I told the president that these conflicts have a way of escalating. There you have it. You got the warmongers here led by 1% Lindsey Graham, and that's what he got in his own state. Ran for president in his own state, South Carolina, got 1%. Shows how popular he is. Unbelievable. I just really, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just beside myself that we're even in this situation. But the president, once again, in all his wisdom here, saying he's just very, very wary of this.